Signore e signori, welcome virtually to Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò at New York University. My name is Julian Sachs, and I'm the program and media coordinator here at Casa Italiana. You may be surprised that it isn't our director, Stefano Albertini, moderating this event, but it just so happens that today's topic is so close to my heart that I was given the honor of welcoming you to the second evening of discussions about cinema, presented in collaboration with the N.I.C.E Film Festival. I take this opportunity to invite all of you, if you haven't done so already, to visit the festival's website at nicefestival.org, where you will be able to access for free the many films that are streaming as part of their 31st American edition. Should Spike Lee be right in considering contemporary sports legends as having taken the place of the great artists of the past, then it is only natural that we follow up yesterday's conversation about the most famous Florentine in history, Dante Alighieri, with one about the football legend that united the supporters of the city's home team throughout the 1990s. For those of you who aren't familiar with the world of soccer, it is important to know that the Italian league, Serie A, ruled all other championships in prestige and in visibility between the late 80s and the mid-90s. You might remember Italy hosting the World Cup in 1990, setting itself up as the main objective for any young player from anywhere else in the world who wanted to make it on the big stage. In an era in which Italian teams only allowed a maximum of 2 foreign players in their rosters, the league welcomed star players the likes of Maradona, Careca, Gullit, Van Basten, Matthäus, Klinsmann, Caniggia, and of course, Gabriel Omar Batistuta. Because of these restrictions and the league's status, even teams that weren't as rich as the big franchises Juventus, Milan, and Inter, the likes, but teams like Fiorentina, Napoli, Parma, and Udinese were able to compete at the highest national and international levels. Today, we focus on the story of the Argentinian striker Gabriel Batistuta, thanks to a recent documentary entitled Numero Nueve by tonight's guest, the director Pablo Benedetti. Pablo Benedetti was born in Pescia, in the Tuscan province of Pistoia, and lives in Florence. After completing his studies at the London Film School, in 2003, he made his debut with his first documentary about the artist Lindsay Kemp, and founded 011 Films together with his friend and co-writer Davide Sordella. They produced the feature film Fratelli di Sangue, and Pablo directed Blue Mist, a documentary on the apnea world champion. In 2008, he produced and directed his first feature film, Corazones de Mujer, selected at the Berlin Film Festival, followed by one more time, Alfonsina y el Mar, with Lucia Bosé and Magali Solier. Recently, he has directed and produced the psychological thriller Anya, Real Love Girl, which is also part of the N.I.C.E Festival and which you can watch online. The documentary Ducati Beyond the Passion, the social film Firenze Sotto Vetro, and he is currently working on a new documentary about boxing called I'm Very Feel, Alexander Usyk. In conversation with Pablo Benedetti tonight, we have invited the journalist Andrea Fiano, who is the US correspondent of the Italian daily paper MF, Milano Finanza, and the editor of the American magazine Global Finance. He was born in Florence and has lived and worked in New York for nearly 40 years. While he does have a past as film reviewer for the Italian paper in New York, he is here today as a Fiorentina fan, which he has been for all his life, and is also a board member of the Viola Club in New York. For once, he says he is not talking about the economy or the financial markets. So thank you for participating. And before I leave you the floor, I would like to remind the audience that you can submit questions at any point by using the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will get to them in the second half of the conversation. So I ask you to welcome virtually to Casa Italiana, Andrea Fiano with Pablo Benedetti.
Buonasera, Pablo, e grazie, and thanks to the Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò, Stefano Albertini and Julian, che made the introduction. Glad to be here tonight. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And of course, most of all, Pablo, welcome. I must start complimenting you for what you have done, for the work you have done, for many things in this Numero Nueve, many parts of it that were emotional, not just as a sport or a soccer fan, but I mean, the images of Reconquista, the Paraná, the character of the wife of Batistuta, Irina. So there were many things. And I think we should start with a very simple and basic question. Why Batistuta? Why did you choose to make a documentary about him?
First of all, I would like to say hi to everyone. It's a pleasure. So thanks to the N.I.C.E Film Festival for this wonderful opportunity to get El Numero Nueve in the States. it would be, much nicer to be there, but we know that we're still in these restrictions of COVID and so on. And also bear with my English, because with not much traveling, I'm not practiced, very much English. So maybe I will forget some words. Going to your questions, when I was studying at the cinema school, the film school, I was in London, and it was, during the period where Gabriel was one of the best number 9 and football player in the Italian Serie A. And I was really happy because at that time in Channel 4 in England, you could see Serie A for free. So I was, hanging around in London and say, hey, I'm from Florence and Batistuta is our player. So I was very proud of that. And of course, as every little, all the Italian kids, they between the 10 and the 15 years old, they dream to become a football player. So did I. And when I was, doing the film schools and watching Gabriel and hearing about his story and his way, his attitude, I always saw him as a special character. I always imagined that if one day I would write a script, my main protagonist would be probably similar to Gabriel. And I made kind of a promise to myself that it was, a special character, a special story. So it all began, like a simple desire at that time. And then one day I was, watching a few news about football, and I discovered again this interview that Gabriel did where he was talking about the situation of his legs. And in that moment, I had kind of a switch that I felt that story was ready for me and I was ready for it. So I just decided that it was the right time to do it. And that's the way basically that I decided to go for it and start working for a documentary.
You basically start with his legs and his operation and end with his leg and an operation. But the way you built in these 90 plus minutes is you showing us the psychology of the man, and you certainly go behind the goals and the scoring. It's not just sports. I feel like you, and I wonder how much of it is intentional, you are showing a different Batistuta. Not just because we realized that he originally didn't want to be a soccer player, but you show the man even more than the athlete. You show him as a husband and as a father and as a son. You show him at home, and you show him with the horses on the Paraná. I imagine that that's intentional, but I wonder to what extent is intentional.
No, you're right. I mean, it was completely intentional. Since the beginning, even when I spoke with my producer, with the production company, Sense Media, I told them that my idea, and even with Gabriel, when I met the first time Gabriel, he asked me what kind of film I wanted to do. And I told him straight away that I was more concentrated into the anthropological point of view. I want to discover more and to go more deeper to the human side. I wanted to meet and so to show to the audience, to the public, a different side of the story of a football player, which is not only, becoming famous. It's not the case of Gabriel, because, many football players think they're driving expensive cars, having big villas. Gabriel wasn't like that, even though football was totally different at that time. But my intention was to get more concentrate on the human side. And I got more convinced when I went for the first time in Argentina to meet for the first time, not Batistuta, but to meet Gabriel. So when I discovered the real Gabriel in Reconquista, with his family, with his friends, the way that he was hanging around, the way that he was breathing life, I thought that it was, for me, much more interesting to give to the audience another side of the angle of this story, to let them to discover, some details about this football player, about his life, which I think it's very transversal in a way, and can be a very good, how can I say? I think he has in his own career, in his own life, a good, is a role model for the youngest. So I thought that it was much more interesting for me that to show the real parts of a man, with all the sacrifice, the way that he lives in the values of the family, the respect for many things. So I thought that it was just much more interesting than showing just the football part, the scores, the goals. But basically, I mean, everybody knows. I mean, if you go to YouTube and you write down Gabriel Batistuta, like many other football players, you can see, what they've done in terms of football. So I wanted to get more concentrate on another side.
Now, I must confess that having been in New York, what he was doing in Florence, and then in Rome, and then briefly in Milan, I met him only when he came to New York with the team, and I had a very different impression of him as a person. And I think the documentary, at least for me, had the effect of changing my image and my opinion on the way he was. I wonder, how did you approach this? I mean, I think of three roles that I'm sure can coexist. You can be, and you are, a director, and you chose your media is a documentary, it's not fiction. But then, are you also doing this as a fan, as a Fiorentina fan, which I don't know if you are, as a soccer fan? Could you be all of this at the same time, or you were trying to detach yourself and be first and foremost a film director, if you can make that kind of a distinction?
Okay. Of course, I am a fan, but I try to detach from that. I wanted to be, in a way, pure in that way. So I try to be a director. And at the same time, I try to become a friend of Gabriel, because since I met him, Gabriel is a very clever guy. I mean, he asks you many things. He wants to understand why you choose to do things, or why you choose to do a scene and not another, why you want to talk about a topic and not another. So since the beginning, I had a very deep and true relation with him. So I wanted to, become a friend, to give the opportunity to reflect something true and not to manipulate it too much as a director. So directing wise, it was more like, script, trying to understand the pace and the rhythm of 90 minutes, technical direction. But above that, I try to make it more as a human, as a friend with Gabriel, trying to tell a story, detached from being a fan or not, because I wanted to, of course, I live in Florence. My heart probably is much more purple than other colors. But Gabriel, in his career, has been playing for other team, and I wanted to respect that. Of course, is deeply in love with the Albiceleste, with the Argentinian team. So I wanted to be detached for this reason as well, because his career belongs to many fans, to different cities. So I thought that was a way to respect the total career.
Reading and just having watched the documentary and reading some of the reviews, I read an interesting review that says that you are basically giving something to three different kind of viewers. I wonder if you agree with this idea. You give something to the hardcore fan, Fiorentina fan for the most, but there is enough also for the Roma fan. For those who are looking at your technique, and there's a lot to say about your technique, different scenes that seem more staged, they walk into a deserted Florence and this and that, and the scenes in the clinic. So the technical aspects, something for the hardcore supporter, fan of Fiorentina or any other soccer team, and then something entertaining, something of passion, the passion for sports, the sacrifice, and that part, which is also when you see his family, how he grew up and living in that, whatever it was, an attic, really probably very poor conditions at the beginning when he started to left his Reconquista to go to work in this other place. So are these three do you agree with the idea that you're feeding or giving something to this kind of different groups of viewers? Is that correct? Is that a correct interpretation?
I don't know. I want to be honest. I mean, hearing, I mean, as you where you are speaking now, I mean, it makes sense in a way. But to be honest, I didn't plan it in that way. I didn't want to, speak in three different positions or three different level. But when you were speaking, it jumped in my mind that the night that we did the first show in Florence after being the Festival of Cinema in Rome, we thought that it was nice, to make a nice first premiere in Florence. And I was scared. I mean, I was really scaring about the Curva coming to see the film. And but at the end, they wrote me messages saying, thanks, you give us a different idea of Bati. Now we respect much more him, and you made a very good job. So I kind of had a very, a deep breath. I was so happy because maybe I did without knowing, but being 100% sincere. Probably I'm at that level as well. So I was speaking to them very, easily and friendly, and they get it, I think. So maybe who wrote that maybe is right, I suppose.
So some relief. Actually, you mentioned earlier, and I'm very intrigued by that. What was the reaction of Batistuta himself, number one? And then was it hard to convince him to do this? Because you said that he's very demanding, he wants to know. So how hard was it to convince him to join you? And how did he react to the final product, to the documentary?
Okay. Convincing him was quite hard. I mean, the first time after that night that I told you that I saw that interview about the legs and so on, the day after I took my daughter to school, and there I met a friend who is a journalist in Florence, Mario Tenerani, and his daughter go to school with Mai, and I told him, I want to make a film on Batistuta. And he looked at me and said, forget it. Gabriel is out from the business of film, of football. He lives in Argentina, when, he's out all this glamour situation. And I told him, just give me a chance, just help me to write, to send him, what I've been writing in one night, and let's see. So since that moment, I've been waiting 6 or 7 months. And every day I was asking Mario, any news? No. Any news? No. Then after 7 months, one day he came and he said, you know what? I've got a very big news. And he said, Gabriel wrote me and he's going to be here in the summer. So he said that they would like to meet you. So I went to that first meeting, and Mario told me, don't get it wrong or get disappointed or upset if after 5-10 minutes they will tell you, okay, thank you. Okay. Because sometimes Gabriel, it's very tranchant, but that meeting ended up in 2 hours of a meeting where Gabriel asked me basically everything. About the film, about me, about my idea. Then he met the production company. I mean, it wasn't easy because he's very demanding, and he wants really to understand. Basically, like he was when he was playing. If you give Gabriel, you don't have to convince him. Basically, you have to tell him and let him understand. If you defend your position, why you're right, and why it's good to do something. So I think that I convinced him just because I explained my idea, and maybe just simply like it, and so we started. But it took a bit long. Yes.
Is there anything that you, in retrospect, you would have done differently?
Probably yes. I mean, every film after you watch, you want to do many things differently. But I think that's more or less I'm happy with it. Also because I've been working with a very good team, my production company and all the team from the TOP, Nicola Francolini, to the producer, to I want to say thanks to them, because without them I couldn't make this kind of family that we were traveling to Argentina, to Italy. And thanks to them, I think that I reached maybe, 90%, 88% of what I was looking for. But of course, there are always things that you want to do differently afterwards.
Speaking of which, would you do anything like this on another athlete? I mean, I heard that you're doing something on boxing. We'll talk about the rest of your work, but I'm curious, is a one-time, never say never, but I mean, is this because of Batistuta, or would you consider doing something like that about another sportsman?
Before Gabriel, I never thought of it. So it was the first, and I never thought to do it again. But then I felt very confident in getting the story and making this story mine. It's very, I jump between fiction film and documentary. Documentary is very attracting to me because it's very challenging not to be with an actor, to deal with a human being with a real emotion. It's very difficult to respect a story because it's a true story. In the case of Gabriel, it's not easy to talk and to spoil and to show the fragility of a person. With Gabriel, we show basically all the aspect of his pain and his, the fact of his legs and so on. So, I like it. I found myself very, very confident in that. And so I think that if there is another opportunity, I would like to do it. And this is why maybe now I'm finding myself of making another documentary about this fighter in the world heavyweight champion. And I think, yes, that I like to work and to deal with this emotion, with these stories. And of course, there has to be a story that I get in, that I feel in myself,
Pablo, have you seen the Netflix I would say fiction on Baggio?
Yeah, of course.
They're very different. It's very different from yours. Yours is a documentary, that is fiction. What do you think? Completely different model, completely different approach. Would you dare or care to compare?
I think, I like it. As you said, it was something totally different from what I've done. It's not documentary, it's fiction. It's clear that they got concentrate on something. All the story goes around that penalty, the penalty in the US. And I think that they choose probably something that either Roberto Baggio like to talk about. Then maybe as a director, but with a lot of respect with the director of Baggio's film, maybe I would like to see things differently, and maybe I would choose to do it in a different way. But I think it was an interesting film, a beautiful story to watch and to discover. Roberto Baggio was, one of the best football player. He's a very nice person. So I think that it was interesting.
A question that I asked you earlier, but I think it would be of interest to the people watching and listening us. You are a real Pablo, because when I started to watch this, I thought maybe he's half Argentinian or Argentinian completely. And then it turns out that you are from Pesciatino. I grew up in Montecatini. You were in England for a while. Now you're in Florence. But you are a real Pablo. So there is no connection between Gabriel, Argentina, and the fact that your name is Pablo, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I'm not Argentine. I'm totally Italian. As you said, I was born in Pescia. I grew up in this small city, Montecatini. Then I left when I was almost 17, 18. And I went to study abroad in UK. And then I came back and I got married and I stopped in Florence since 2000. So I spent most of my Italian life here in Florence. And now I live here with my family. But yes, I'm totally Italian.
Pablo, let's go a little bit back. You mentioned the opening in Rome at the festival and then Florence. Tell us about the reaction to this documentary in Italy, in Florence, but also in Argentina. What has been the reaction?
You mean the reaction of, before you were talking about the reaction of Gabriel, or you mean of people?
Both. Before I ask you about Gabriel, if you want to tell me more, yes, but also the reaction of the public, of the people that watch it.
With Gabriel, we did the screen at the end of with the final cut, just because it was, of course, his diritto,
the rights
of him by contract, of course, to watch the final cut. And I remember that we did the screening in the hotel, and it was after 3 or 4 days after the operation in Switzerland. So he had the foot. It was because we went in Rome, and Gabriel was still with the gesso, I don't know, with the plant.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it was a very strange situation. But at the end, you look at me. Gabriel it doesn't give you many words, many compliments. But he looked at me and he said, "Well done. It's a good job." Then after 5 seconds, said, "There are some parts that I don't like it, but good job." And I remember the first time I went in with a book, and he gave me a sign, and he wrote me, "I hope that your film is going to be better." So I asked him, "Is it better from the book?" And he said, "Yeah, maybe. Yes. Okay, it is." So his reaction was that. But then finally, when we did the premiere in Rome at the festival with all the people in the cinema, at the end of the screening, Gabriel, have some tears. So it was really emotionally touched by the film, by the people. The atmosphere in a cinema theater is magical. And of course, it gives you different feelings. This is why I think it's important that theaters are open and people can go there to watch films, because it's a different experience. So going back to your question, the reaction in Rome was really good. It was a beautiful atmosphere, because sitting in the cinema, in the theater, there were like fans of Roma, because of course we were in Rome, fans from Florence. And even though they still maybe hate each other, because, they took from Florence Gabriel, but the atmosphere were beautiful. And in scene from Florence, the people from Florence were like, clapping and start to say yeah, and then on the other side, when it was like in Rome, the same, with a lot of respect. And in the end, it was like a beautiful sensation for everyone, and the atmosphere was really emotional, because everybody was touched by the fact that they discover the life of a man, and not only a football player. So some people were like, "Oh, I wanted to see more football," but at the same time they were saying, "But it was beautiful to meet Gabriel, to discover Gabriel, and forget a little bit Batistuta."
Have you shown it in Argentina?
At the moment is something that really hurt me, because we haven't been able to release it in Argentina. The film was presented at the end of 2019, and it was supposed to go on distribution beginning of 2020. And you know what happened in 2020, the COVID. So with that, the film was stopped. Let's say that we lost, in a way, our moment. Then it was difficult to open again distribution over there, because of course there is the crisis. Then the film, in the industry, after 1 year, 1.5 years, especially now after the COVID, when people are, every week you have a new film on platforms. So after the COVID, our film in a way was old. So now we're trying. We're going soon to be released all around Europe, and hopefully we will get to Argentina and South America next year, I hope.
Well, you made it to Nice, you made it to New York, and maybe next is Buenos Aires. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I hope it's something that I think that the project deserves it, and I think that the story of Batistuta must, in a way, get back home to his larger family, which is Argentina. Gabriel is really loved and respected in Argentina, and I think that people, I mean, they have Maradona and they have Gabriel. They don't put them in a different level. Of course, they're two different things, two different players, two different human beings, but they really love them, and I think that it would be nice to distribute the film over there. It's something that we're missing, and I'm sad about that.
Well, I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Seriously, because I think it deserves. And as you said, given that is about Gabriel Batistuta, there is an audience. I'm sure there is an audience and an interest. Changing topic a little bit. I know we want to leave some time for questions, but I have a few more questions. One is looking at the work you have done, and you have been very prolific. I mean, you directed a lot of different things, documentaries and fiction, and also very, I would say, polyedric, very different topics. Is there a common line? I mean, how would you describe yourself and your work? And I say this with respect. In a way, I was impressed and surprised that you have so many different things, so different works, and different media, because documentary and fiction, and yet also very different topic, not just because you started with something on N.I.C.E, but in general. So how would you describe just because you are a director or are you a film person, just tell us how you would describe what connects one thing with the other in your production?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know if it's a limit or it's just me, but I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very attracted by character-driven story that sometimes they are translated to me into films, sometimes into documentary. After the film school, I started with documentary. I think maybe just because it was easier. I mean, it's easier in a way, okay, because it's tough on other way. Also budget-wise, to work on a documentary. I had this beautiful chance to work with N.I.C.E. So there, for example, I discovered theater, I discovered opera. N.I.C.E, I mean, he was the creator of the Ziggy Stardust of David Bowie. So I started, let's say, my film career hanging around in theaters of opera with camp coming from the Ziggy Stardust. So I think that I received since the beginning a lot of different impulse coming to me. And I think that during these years, I've been maybe looking and trying to understand and to find my path. So I never said no to an opportunity to live something deeply in terms of work, of course. So I think that this is why I found myself in different kinds of story, in different kind of experience, but also because I'm attracted, and also because I like a lot to collaborate creativity wise. And I always found, interesting people to work with. I think cinema is it's a teamwork. And of course, if you look at a director, I don't know if it's in the States is the same, but here in Europe, they tell you are a regista, director, or you are an autore, no? And now, so, I mean, they always make this difference. When they define you a director, you direct, basically. I mean, you work as part of a team. You can be a DOP, you can be a director, and so it's more technical. But when you feel more the author side, probably you go to looking for different things. So probably the technique, it's less interesting to me. So I think this is why. And I'm happy now. I think now it's the moment where I feel myself very confident in the language and in the genre of the documentary. But for example, also at the same time, I'm missing fiction, and I'm already thinking of my next story. And maybe in 2 years, I would be back to fiction film.
You mentioned budgets. Every time one speaks to a director or anybody in your industry, there is a big complaint, particularly in Italy, about the lack of funding and the problems of bringing any project to completion. Has this been a problem, not in the specific case of this Numero Nueve, but in general? Is still a big struggle? Is that a big part of what one director like you has to do?
Well, yes, it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when I move a lot as an independent, so it's much more difficult. Also, I think that you can make film in a way which is the standard, the normal way, budget-wise as well, with public funds and so on. But you can make film in different ways. So it depends how quick or how lucky or how connected you are. In my case, I've been struggling, but at the end, I was always able to do my project and to take it to the end. It's always difficult. You don't get much reach most of the time. I mean, you have to put also sometimes you have to invest as well at the beginning. In the case of Batistuta, I was very lucky because the production did a very big effort. The production company and also the associate, which are Mirror Production and Sartoria dell'Immagine, that they were associated with Sense Media, and they did a very great job in terms of production. So I was lucky, and I think it was difficult to them, and I think that we have to respect this kind of production a lot, at least here in Italy, because they try to do something good, something interesting, something because they are passionate, just something because they believe in it. And you know how, cinema and culture wise, how it's important. So, but yes, it's still difficult. And of course, I think, I don't know, because I haven't yet have an experience in the United States. I hope maybe one day. But I think that we have different budget here. When you talk about a documentary in the States, maybe the budget probably are around, I don't know, sometimes maybe 700, 800,000, $1 million. Here, no. I mean, it's impossible, except maybe for some big cases or big names that, of course, maybe, they have a more powerful commercial, so they can get it easily, and maybe they deserve it. I don't know.
Pablo, finally, again, before we open, 2 questions from the people that are watching us. Tell us a little bit about your future projects. What are you working on? I understand the boxing thing is something that you're working on. I don't know how close you are to a final product, but in general, what else is there on your agenda?
In this project, you mean? The one that I'm working on now?
In general, what is coming from you going forward?
Well, I of course keep my feet on the ground. So I'm working step by step. At the moment, I'm working in this beautiful project. As I told you before, it's the story about this great sportsman, Alexander Usyk, an Ukrainian fighter that has a beautiful story because he was born in Crimea. He lives in Kiev. He did something like 360 fights in the amateur. He won the gold medal at the Olympic Games. He came from nothing. He's this kind of Rocky Balboa kind of story. It's very humble, beautiful family. I went to Ukraine, to Kiev. I found a beautiful story that I thought that it's very important to tell. So I'm concentrating a lot on that. Thanks to God, Alex win the world champion. So now he's the heavyweight champion in 4 different categories. He's going to do the rematch soon. So I think that I'm trying to work on an intimate journey, differently from Gabriel. Gabriel, I mean, of course, it was like 20 years, from the retire. in this case, Alexander is 33 years old. He's still fighting. It's in the middle of, in the middle. He's in the main explosion of his career. So I'm looking at it as an intimate journey. So I knew where it started. I don't know when I'm going to finish. And I think it's the challenge. It's what scares me in a way, but it's what it's what gave me the challenge and attract me to this. I'm discovering the story day by day. So now I'm thinking about that. And as I told you before, after this, my dream is to get back to fiction. And I've got an idea, but I'm still developing. So it's just, in the air.
Thank you. Julian, I can go on, but I think fairness.
Okay, so, we still don't have any questions. I'd like to remind the audience that if they have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A function that you see at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I would like to ask a couple of questions to Pablo. The first one, the film closes like with a bit of a cliffhanger. We see this surgery happening and him moving his first steps after the surgery. So as a fan, my instinctive question is, how is he? Do we know how he's doing now after the operation?
He's good. I spoke with him. I spoke with Gabriel a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him, and he said he's fine. He's very happy. He's having back his life, let's say. So things are better, and yes, he's happy. He's well. It was a nightmare before. It was really a nightmare. So he said now he's very happy, back to a normal life, playing golf, going back to horses. Yes, he's well, he's fine. So he's grandfather now. His first, Lucas, his second, had a baby, Lautaro. So you never know, Lautaro Batistuta. So I think now he's enjoying a lot that with his family, becoming grandfather. So yes, he's fine and happy now.
And I have another question. Since the next World Cup is approaching, we just finished the Euros, but there's a new World Cup approaching, and it's going to be taking place in Qatar. And the only time I had ever heard of Qatar having anything to do with soccer was that Batistuta actually ended his career there.
Yes.
After the short spell at Inter. He went there. And did you don't cover this in the documentary. Is there a particular reason for that?
No, when Gabriel went to Qatar, of course, it was really at the end of his career. Sometimes Gabriel said that he did it, but when he was there, it's different there. They don't train like they train in Serie A or in Premier League. So I didn't, see it interesting for the film. Also from the angle that I was watching it. So basically, and also, it was kind of difficult to go down there budget-wise. But yes, I found it less interesting, let's say. Not football-wise, but just for the idea of the story that I was trying to tell.
Yeah.
I wanted to get more focus, in the beginning in Italy and in the Argentinian part that probably lots of people didn't know. Reconquista, his life there, where he was born, first places where he, started to play football, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking about training. I found the film interesting also because since it does have a little bit, it's a docu film. It's not only a documentary. There's a bit of acting that is required from the main characters, we would say. How was it? You were Batistuta's coach, an acting coach, not a soccer coach, but you basically had to direct him. What was that experience like also for him?
Yeah, Gabriel is a great actor. It's very good. I always take it at the first. Talking about coach, once he told me, "You are mi rompi le scatole, no? You bother me more than Trapattoni did." So it was funny that, but it was fine, easy, and nice. And also, I had a very great assistant director, which was Irina, because a lot of the time when I was shooting, for example, the scene of the hotel, the scene in the cinema in Rome, Gabriel didn't know. So I gave him a kind of a scheme of what was going to happen, but then speaking with Irina, telling her where I was trying to take him, okay, in terms of emotions. So it was more, kind of directing Irina and not Gabriel in a way, but at the same time, because I wanted to get real reaction. As a matter of fact, sometimes I wrote, for example, the scene in the hotel that they said it's completely fake. It's only one take, that scene. In purpose, I did only one take of 20-25 minutes, just Gabriel, Irina, me, and the sound recorder. Everybody was out from the room. And I just told them, basically what I wanted from that scene, something very intimate between them. I told to Irina, the subject that I wanted to came out, and they did it, just one take. So it was easy in a way and difficult in another.
I don't know if Andrea has any more questions.
Yes, Pablo, I wonder, going back and looking at what are they saying now in Argentina about Batistuta? He apparently gave a TED lecture, and everybody was talking about this TED lecture in which he talks about discipline and how you have to be persistent in what you do. Among all the other things, there was a rumor not long ago that he would be coming to the US to be a coach in the US soccer. I don't think it makes any sense. But what I wonder is, health was obviously the reason that he finished his career, as his active career. But did you have any feeling, or did he ever brought up the fact that he basically left the soccer world? I mean, yes, he went back to the business of the family and did this and did that, the investment. I understand they must have lived in Australia at some point or something like that for a few years.
Yes, after Qatar, they went to live in Australia because Gabriel wants to reach a normal life, not to be stopped. I mean, having the possibility to go and eat in a restaurant or go to the cinema, to the supermarket, enjoying, his family. And of course, in Australia, they don't know about football like they do in Europe or in other countries. So he said it's probably the best place to go, and they went there. And also, it was like an occasion to give. I think that Gabriel did also to give an opportunity to his sons to learn English, to get into a different culture. He's very attento to this.
Attentive,
for this to his family. So yes, he's been living there.
But he never mentioned the fact that he basically left the soccer world. There is not plans to come back in any form or do anything like that. To me, it's a little bit surprising, considering the level of stardom that he reached, that he's not involved with anything at this point.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what I can say, because I've never been speaking about this with Gabriel, because with Gabriel, I mean, I think that he gave a lot. He gave a lot to the football. He gave a big part of his life. He gave it much that, he had a physical problem for that choice. And I think that when he retired, he wants to take back to himself and to his family time. He wants to give back time. And also, it's very simple, Gabriel. He's a very intimate guy. He likes to live a normal life. This is why I think he went back to the Conquista. As he said in the film, in the Conquista, he can walk around and be just, a normal person, and he feel himself 100%, what he is. So I think that this is the reason why he gets, he take distance from football and from the major system. then I don't know. I don't know if it will come back. I think that if he has an opportunity that can take him something with responsibility, maybe it will come back. But just to be there, just as a flag, or just to be there, just to.
No, I'm even thinking as a coach, for example, or anything like that.
Maybe. I think. Still, again, it's my opinion. If there is something that challenges him, it's something that it can be constructive in time and interesting. I think that can be possible.
And does he keep track of what's going on in soccer in Italy and all that? Is that kind of guy? Does he read the sports papers or anything like that?
Yes, Gabriel is that kind of guy that he keeps an eye on everything, and he follows and he knows. He's a very smart guy, and he likes to know what's going on. And of course, football gave him a lot, so I think that he still respects football, and he likes. Gabriel likes all the sports in general. If you play ping pong with him, he always wants to win. He's very competitive. He likes the competition, so it's what he likes. And I think that yes, he's watching himself, around, and maybe, never know.
We have a question from Lyle Goldberg. Lyle asks, during his years in Florence, Gabriel had a difficult relationship with the tifoseria. Each year there was the sense that he wanted to leave in search of more money. He was even called a mercenario. I remember a poster showing the Perseo di Cellini with the testa di Batistuta instead of the Medusa. Now he has a much warmer feeling towards Florence. How did he feel during those difficult years, and how did he repair his feelings towards the city and its people?
Tough question. I don't know. I think that, to be honest, when you are inside, things are different. When you hear from newspaper, or you hear from different points of view, you never get to the truth, basically. I think that Gabriel, as many football players, so as many professional players, when they do a job, they're professionals. Okay, so if they do a job and they let a club, a city, earning money, getting wealth, thanks also of their job, of what they do, I think that in a way they ask to get something back. And maybe I think that sometimes in those days in Florence, maybe they took it wrong in a way, or maybe it became a news, and when it became a news, it's easy to keep it and to let people talk. And but to be honest, I didn't get that feeling when I was working with Gabriel. But he is very respectful to money, to work. So I think that maybe, there's always a part of true and another part that is not.
Yeah, I would say that you also answer it a little bit in the documentary, in the moment in which Batistuta has his big knee injury, and it happens at the same moment in which Edmundo gallops away to the Carnevale in Rio. That's kind of the moment where you start sensing Batistuta saying, if the people around me are not as serious as I am, then something is broken in the relationship. And that's kind of, you feel that that's really the turning point of his relationship with Florence. Yes, but it's very simple. So when it's very simple, I think that it's very easy to see it as the truth. He's been living in Florence for 9 years, trying to do something good for the city. Probably we've been winning here thanks to him in those years. Of course, again, it's a job. They make a decision. They decided together with the club. And when things change and when people, make different decisions, of course, what you promise change, and you decided at one time to go in a different club. Also, Gabriel
spent a lot of years here. He had the age, so he wanted to try to win something. And of course, if here you don't get the feeling that they want the same as you do, then you go.
Of course. On that note, we've reached the hour mark almost of our conversation. So I think we should close this unless Andrea has a final question.
No, we can stay on forever, but I'm very thankful to Pablo and of course to Zerilli-Marimò and N.I.C.E and everything. Yeah, no, thanks.
So I'd like to close by reminding everyone that they have until November 20th to watch El Numero Nueve and also Anya, Real Love Girl, and all the other amazing films available in this year's edition of the N.I.C.E Festival. I wish to thank the festival's director, Viviana Del Bianco, Mila Tenaglia, and of course tonight's guests, Pablo Benedetti and Andrea Fiano. Everyone, enjoy your weekend and check out our website, casaitaliananyu.org, for our calendar of upcoming events. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks again to all of you and to the N.I.C.E Film Festival and Casa Zerilli-Marimò and New York University.
Ciao.
And to the audience. Ciao, ciao.
A presto.